Hello and welcome back to Mitten Backstage. My name is Dr. Snedeker and I'm the host. I'm back from my 2-month break. It was great getting to have some time off of social media, take a little break from interviews and weekly posts. And I feel refreshed and ready for 2022. Also, thank you to everyone in the West Michigan area or on the east side of Michigan, whether it was meeting up for recording or coming to check out a show that I played. I appreciate, the people who could come out or who expressed, they wanted to come out. It's always nice seeing folks, especially during the winter when it's, tricky to travel sometimes and, hard to plan certain events. So glad I was able to do a lot of that during the time I had off podcasting. Like normal mode, we did a planetarium show and a residency at Listening Room over at Studio Park. Earth Radio did some shows on the east side of the state over at Otis Supply and 21st Street. I did some jazz gigs at GR Noir, did some gigs with Mark Lavengood and solo at, the Old Goat. A lot of stuff, a lot of things that popped up. I even did some, some special events, for the city, and it was just a fun time. And, really happy that I got to do a lot more performing in these normally much slower months. Glad to be back. And glad to have on the first episode back my friend Caitlin Cusack. So Caitlin's story is really inspiring. She went to Grand Valley State University, at the same time I did. I think she graduated just a little bit ahead of me. But we both did our undergrads there. And she, got jobs at Grand Valley. She had a choir directing job. She was in musicals. And then one day she got a concussion while on stage during one of her plays, one of her musicals. And, that changed her whole life going forward. She, didn't know for the longest time if she was going to be able to manage the symptoms, literal pain from having to play or sing, or move around even. It took a while for her to, even get to a certain point where recently she did her first public performance, 2 full sets with guests, all original music that she had also written over the last 2-3 years. It all came to that moment, and it showed, her ability to just kind of adjust and work through so many things, and, a testament to the people that she, sought out for care. And it's a really cool story. We talk about that and more in this episode of Mitten Backstage. So gear up for that story. If you enjoyed today's conversation and you want to support my podcasting efforts or anything else I do in music, you can head on over to patreon.com/Dr. Snedeker. There you can contribute at different tier levels to get early access to podcast episodes, exclusive merch, and more. You can also go to DrSnedeker.com to see everything else that I'm currently up to around the internet. And don't forget about your social currency. If you like sharing things with your friends, if you like videos, subscribing, following, all those things that show interest in a thing you like, that helps push out my content to the algorithm. It helps the algorithm recommend it to your friends. All those things help the podcast as well. All right, let's get right into today's episode with Caitlin Cusack. Here's who this person is.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, hanging out.
Thanks for having me. This is fun. It's a great time to do it too.
Yeah. For those listening, we have a camera and setup and things in person. It's not on Zoom like it's been. So trying new things for the new year, but I can't promise I'll keep looking this way.
Yeah.
But,
something to get used to.
Yeah. Well, and it mentioning perfect timing, I saw you play yesterday. Was that that was the 3rd or 4th public performance in last?
So it was actually my official first public performance.
Oh, right, public.
Yeah. I had a private thing in May on my birthday. That was just like an invite only, just people I loved surrounding me in love on a day that's really tough usually. Mm-hmm. And and otherwise I've just done live streams.
Oh yeah.
Just 2. of original stuff. So this was my first one that
Wow.
like anybody could come, and I was like kind of freaking out about it, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that, you know, because I saw such a good like cross section of people. I mean,
Yeah.
like Dale Streamer was there, and
Mhm.
you know, other Grand Valley people.
Yeah.
And you got Addie involved, and
Mhm. Always, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, some of my
ready.
favorite people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that space. It looked
was-
like they put a lot of attention.
Yeah,
And,
very thoughtfully crafted there, like created, and it was so cozy.
Yeah,
Like it was like a cozy version of the listening room, I feel like.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like similar aesthetic and like yeah, definitely more. Yeah, it's smaller size, but also just like it's got that familiarity of like, you know, I think of how many West Michiganders grew up in church. Like to have a church space that's like, okay, I know what this is like, but it's a little bit more updated than.
Yeah, like modern, also homey, welcoming, warm. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
It was a really nice place to play.
Yeah, I'm glad that they. But if I heard it right, was it they designed Soundcheck to be like? Was it in response to the, you know, the pandemic and wanting to make a space for artists, or was it always like?
I think they'd had the vision for it. And then when the pandemic hit, it was like all the things fell into place that people had time to make it happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think they really like created it and built it over the pandemic times. And
Right.
now that they're welcoming people in, it's like really starting to take off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw like Nick Thomas was playing there next week,
Mhm.
and I feel like he's gotten to the point with his career where, you know, like anything with songwriting or like in the acoustic world, he's kind of, you know, he'll pop up at conventions, he'll pop up at, you know, the Folk Alliance stuff. He does a lot of, you know, the songteller sessions at the listening room. He's just like songwriter.
Yeah, he's a staple.
Yeah.
I haven't met him yet, but I've seen him all over social media forever. So
Yeah, I don't think I really started meeting him and chatting with him until, you know, because he would run the open mic at Founders.
oh, okay.
So every Tuesday that I worked, I would see him.
Oh my gosh, maybe I have met him. That's funny. When I did the Circle Theater concert series, we did a Fleetwood Mac tribute. And after the closing concert at Circle, we went and did the open mic at Founders.
Oh.
And I'm sure that was him.
Yeah, because he had done it
running
for
it.
years at that point.
Yeah.
So.
And like Rebecca, who was like in charge of our group and was running it and directing it, knew whoever was running the open mic and was a friend of hers. So that all makes sense because she also does music and singer-songwriter things.
Wow.
That is so funny. I'm sure he doesn't know who I am, but like, yeah, our paths must have crossed. That's so funny.
Yeah, and that's, well, and I feel like that's a good, you know, I don't know if symptom's the right word, but a good result of the Michigan scene. There's a lot of cross-pollination and people, you know, seeing like, oh, this person's doing that. I know how to get them connected, you know.
Yes.
Or like the Michigan Music Alliance starting up. Like that's going to be a huge thing. And like, you know, I think even in 5 years, it'll be one of those.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it'll look like in 5 years, but that's so exciting.
Yeah. And I happened to walk in or loading in for one of my residency gigs at Listening Room. They were all, you know, a bunch of them were meeting, and it's like, oh, okay, we got, you know, John Sinkovitz, Elle Lively, Chris Newberg, who does a lot of the legal side of music.
Yeah.
You know, Shane German, you know,
and I know Shane because of Grand Rapids Community Theater.
Oh, right.
And that's how I've always known who he was. And then I didn't know a lot about the music industry and that side of things, especially in West Michigan when I was like in the classical world and stuff.
Right.
So then to find out he has this huge role at the radio station, it just was whoosh, over my head for years. So cool. He's like led such a life. So many different things.
Yeah, I keep trying to, I know he's so busy. I'm trying to figure out a time to like, it's like, I just need an hour. Tell everyone what you've done. 'Cause you've done so many
oh my
things.
gosh. I'd love to hear his stories.
Yeah.
Would love.
He's got it's such a varied, like, you know, all different aspects of, like, he's a performer, but he's also a, you know, admin, but also, you know, has worked for nonprofits and other, you know,
Right.
just has so
And
much
has been,
experience.
yeah, performers in different fields, and I love that. I have a friend, we were just chatting, that we talked about all of the different point O's of his life. Like Tom 1.0 did this, Tom 2.0 did this. We got all the way up to like 14. And a few days later, he was like, oh yeah, I started a tax business with my dad when I was at blah, blah, blah this age. And I was like, well, what .0 was that?
Yeah. Hold on.
12.5 or something?
Yeah, let me look through my notes.
Yeah. I love, as I get older though, seeing everybody, or like learning about different people's lives and what they've done throughout. It's never one thing. At least the people who I love to hear about, like, their lives, like, they did this for a little bit and then they branched out to this. Like, it's given me so much encouragement to be okay with following a path for a while.
Right.
And I can go down that path and decide this isn't what I wanted to do and make a jump over to something else. Like, it's okay. Even though as kids we were so trained to be like, pick your career and go to college for this and don't even think about doing anything else. You know, it's just like, and that's not how the world is anymore at all. And I love it.
Yeah. There's such pros and cons to, like, you know, I love that there are more people who, especially now with, like, you know, all the news reporting, like, all these jobs, like, why doesn't anyone want to work? And
right.
It's like, you know, I think of my friend who basically, like, understood that, like, oh, we're at this time now where workers have a lot of, you know, if you just push back a little bit, you'll get the types of things you need to get. And that's why you're seeing so many, I don't know, unions pop up and attempts to unionize and people not settling for, like...
Exactly. People are not settling for terrible treatment anymore.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's, yeah. So I think of, with the music business, it's like so many skills can transfer. And I think that's one thing at Grand Valley that I kind of learned at the school, but mostly kind of having one foot in and out of school these 4 years and just seeing what it was like, you know, like, oh, here's what it's like to play in an academic setting, but then here's, you know, what it's like to book a bar gig or something.
So different. So different.
And
oh my gosh.
So, like, because, it's like credentials don't really mean anything. Like, even...
the bar?
Even, like... And it's weird because, like, credentials can sometimes mean something, you know, if an artist has, like, Grammy winner, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can pack out, you know, even a 200-seat venue or something.
Maybe not.
They're good in certain markets and they're not universally, you know, people can... I think of, like, May Earlywine, like, she's made a really strong career just in Michigan. Yeah. Like, she's not...
Which I think she almost sold out or maybe did sell out St. Cecilia's for her album release a week ago.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, seeing what she does behind the scenes and, you know, all sorts of artists who, like, they understand how to, continue to put out music, but also, you know, work those networking, relationships, you know, thinking long-term. You know, I know Mark Lavengood's always been someone who's just hustled up, like, you know, it's like, what am I doing during quarantine? I'm going to build a studio. Like, how do you even do that? And he built a studio with a lot of help and people to consult. And, you know, he's got that Smiling Acres Music Festival thing now. And, he's a big part of that. And, it's cool seeing people who, like, are seeing...
opportunities.
They see opportunities and just connect and, like, you know, plug themselves in or try to get other people plugged into. And I don't know.
I love it.
It's
an exciting time, exciting place to be.
I'm sure it was, like, a good feeling yesterday.
Yes, it was. And it was like, I haven't booked any like live performances because of my brain injury, and I've been going through so much rehabilitation things, and I dealt with overstimulation for so long, and I still do. So I have to be really mindful of what can I spend my energy on and where, like, what locations can I go to and not have a complete migraine like an hour in. And Yeah, so I guess I don't know if we said, everybody at home, I had a brain injury 3.5 years ago now, that completely turned my life upside down, and I've been trying to come back from it ever since. And I've seen so many doctors and I've gone through so many things to pinpoint dysfunction and the root causes. And I didn't want to get to a point where I was just treating symptoms, because I don't want to live my life miserably.
Right.
You know, like the life I want to live is not one where I have a migraine every day and I'm laying in bed because I can't handle the world outside of my bedroom.
Right.
And I just kept pushing, and I was like, this is not good enough. Like, I have to keep trying. I have to keep pushing. And so the progress has been incredible just even in the last year, and I'm so grateful for it. But so I did my live stream concert, I think 2 years ago-ish.
Okay.
Went okay. It was from my own living room. No outside noise. Like, I don't have any other stimulation happening. Like, it's just me doing my thing and interacting, you know? And then when I did a live private concert on my birthday the next year, my head symptoms were like after the first set.
Oh, wow.
And actually the month or 2 months before that, I did the Michigan Music Alliance fundraising for the Artist Relief Fund.
Right.
At the listening room, they invited me to be part of the songwriters, one of the nights.
Right.
Like the songwriter session type things.
Yeah.
And that was so hard for me. And I feel so bad still that I felt like I was so high maintenance, like telling them about my brain and like kind of what I needed to have quiet space ahead of time, and to be able to go off stage in between my songs and stuff. And I just was trying to take care of my brain. But I was in so much pain that day, even before we started.
Oh.
I mean, my brain was so bad. And then afterwards, like, I was at like a level 7 or 8 pain with 4 ibuprofen already in me.
Oh.
It was so hard. And I just was like, ugh, is this something I can do? Like, will my body ever actually allow me to do this?
Yeah.
And it was scary to think that it was scary just to think about the journey even that I'd have to go through to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I fought and fought and fought, and here I am. And
here.
I know, and I was like, this music is important to me, and like I've written all of this like after brain injury, after my mom died, and I have to get it out of me now. Like, it
Right.
has to go live not inside me. Like, I want it to have its own life. I want other people to let it live with them if it's important. Like, if they can find any comfort or solace or even some fun from my breakup bops or whatever.
Right.
Like, I just was like, it has to meet, like, all of this writing that has gotten me through this brain injury rehabilitation and my mom's passing and even my dad's passing. Like, it has to mean something. I wanted it to mean something.
Yes.
And so I was like, I have to keep trying. And so last night, finally did this performance. And it was in that warm, cozy space. The lighting was not too harsh on my brain. I really tried to take all barriers away. Like, I was so worried I'd forget words, but I really just tried to like go in and say, I know this music. Like, I'm going to let my brain do its thing, and I'm going to emotionally be there with it and not put up like all my lyrics where I'm staring, worried if I'm going to forget the words. And if you see the video, I forgot the words at more than once, and one song in particular, but I just wanted to do it right. So I went back and I still didn't do it right. But honestly, it was like the best I could have asked for it to go. And I'm so excited to say that I didn't have a ton of pain until the end of the concert.
That's good.
So like, it goes from a year ago in March to having massive pain before I even started singing.
Right.
To 2 months later having pain after the first set of 4 or 5 songs because I made small sets.
Yeah.
And then a year later, like after really pushing my limits and getting my body to tolerate more, not having pain, like massive pain. I mean, it wasn't massive even. It was just enough to be like, oh, I really don't feel well. Need to relax now. Like, I need to de-stim. Like,
yep.
But and now here I am today, and I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like,
that's huge.
It's huge. I used to have like migraines for days. I would be in bed and just like could barely get down the stairs. Like, And I just am so grateful for everyone who supported me and like just to and who's believed me when I said this isn't good enough for me. Like
Right.
this
That's huge.
Yeah, and like I don't want to just settle for, some doctors are like, well, if you have these symptoms this long after brain injury, they're not going to get any better. I was like, darn right they're going to get better. I am going to make sure they're going to get better. Like, and some people have things that are completely out of their control, but the brain, what I've learned is that it can always change. The neuroplasticity of our brain means it can always change. So it's just like finding the right parts to focus on and rehabilitate and finding the right providers to help. And I just am so happy. Yeah. At least grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and even like, because you mentioned, like, oh, I forgot some of those lyrics, but the whole thing felt like, it felt like a celebration of like the music and like the journey up until that point, and everyone in the crowd, I don't know like your whole circle, so I can't be like, is he a stranger? Does he even know what's going on?
Right.
But it seemed like everyone that was there to see you, and some people were like, enjoying some of the sadder songs. They were like tearing up. Other people were like laughing at the, the banter, the jokes.
Good.
It was just, like, it was just a good, like, just fun night of music.
Good. Yeah. And I there were a lot of people I knew there, which was awesome because Lowell is right in between my hometown and where I live now. So Ionia is my hometown. Lowell's basically halfway to Grand Rapids where I am now. So it was so awesome because I had Grand Rapids people come and I had Ionia people come.
Oh, yeah.
And, we kind of met in the middle. And then I had friends from all over tuning in to the live stream, which was so awesome. Like friends in California and New York ? And maybe Texas. And I don't think anybody from Croatia did because I think that's like 6 a.m. or something like what it would. Yeah, it's too early for anybody to get up. But it was so, it just was awesome. And I did have messages from friends, but I had a message from someone I didn't know today that was like, thank you. I was so glad I was there. Thanks for like sharing your story and your music. And it was like really touching. And I think that's what I've said. I've wondered, like, do I really want to do this? Do I need to put my music out there? Like, does it matter to anyone else other than me? And I was like, I think the answer is, if it touches one person, is that enough? And I think so. And so to have, obviously, people who know me, who are rooting for me, which I obviously appreciate, are going to be excited. But to have someone I don't know say that means a lot.
Yeah, it's so, and I think people they might think of it as like, oh, I'm just saying a nice, or I'm complimenting, or especially like Midwestern politeness.
Yeah.
But like, it goes such a long way to like add, if you're already feeling good about a performance and then someone else comes up that you didn't even expect to say hi and say that you had that impact is always huge.
Yeah. And I think that's like my life goal has always been more or less to like inspire. And now, especially after brain injury and going through so like the depth of loss of both of my parents and like the darkness of all of these things. And then to know that I didn't want to live in the darkness and that I really wanted to search for the light and to be light and to share light. Like that's what I want. I want light to flow through me, and I want to be able to help if I can by using my gifts. And I think that's how I was raised, but also it's so important to me, I think, just to share.
Yeah.
And if it can help.
Yeah, it's so like, there's so many songs. I mean, I think of, this is on the more jokey side, I guess, but, I think of like the origins of like Sweet Child of Mine, how it was like, they just made this goofy riff and then they're like, wouldn't this be funny? And then it became like one of their biggest songs.
Right? Isn't that so funny?
Yeah.
You never know.
Or like, something they put back in the day on like a B-side ends up becoming like a hit single, and you're like, oh, these were the extras.
Yeah.
You didn't know that would become
Yeah, you never know what people will connect to, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I've gone through so much in my head of like, ugh, is this song dumb? Like, are people gonna think I'm stupid if I sing this song, like this stupid breakup song?
Am I 14?
Yeah, exactly. Like, am I being so dramatic? And everyone will just look at me and be like, "Oh my God, what is she doing? She's so dramatic." But some people, like, that's their song. They're like, that's how I felt, or like that one line is like, I was ready to bop, or whatever. And I was like, great, because I wrote it having fun, or I wrote it being dramatic, or whatever. Yeah, and if people want it, great, have it, take it, let it live with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and even is when Hannah and I were watching the show, we always like goof around, or like we're minding instruments or adding,
fun.
like, oh, the strings would be sweet, or
Nice.
like just thinking of like, especially after this weekend working with or this past weekend working with Haruki from Paddlebots. He would be a great producer, I think, to work with, because his studio's very, like, his home studio's in his basement. It's very, like, comfortable.
Nice.
All, the lighting can all be adjusted in very cool ways, and it's very cozy. There's no like, it's not as like intimidating as like a bigger studio, or like more open space. But Haruki himself is also like, he's a great singer and bassist, horn player, guitar player.
Nice. Okay.
So when we were working with Brooklyn Cole, it was less about like, like, oh, you only brought 2 verses, I guess that's all we can work on. It was like, no, we wrote like 6 songs in a weekend.
Wow, cool.
And like just had it had the skeletons for everything, had demos, like just the rhythm instruments, and then also was making notes about like, okay, we need to, we want strings on this, or we want horns, or whatever layers.
Nice.
It was very like, it was cozy, but without being, how cozy can sometimes be, where you're just hanging out and
don't get anything done. Yeah, and don't have inspiration to keep going or something, or
it was a good mix.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
Yeah, he lives on the other side of the state, but
okay,
he's got a house and
a
guest room, and
yeah, let's talk more about that. I want to hear more about that at some point.
Yeah.
And I think that's the next step, is that yes, I can get my stuff out there by live performance, but my brain can't do that often right now. So I'd like to get it recorded somehow and let people have it. So yeah, and I've struggled a lot with, like, because I write everything like from my voice and the piano.
Oh, right.
And I hear it much more poppy, or I hear it with a really cool, fun guitar, which I don't play very well. And then and then I hear synth, and like, I just hear it so many different ways that people don't hear it when I just play and sing it. And so it's trying to figure out like, what route do I really want to go with some of them, and how electronic versus acoustic do I want to go, just lots of questions in my mind that working with someone who knows what they're talking about would be great. Who has some guidance and who can collaborate. Right. And some of my songs I'm really, like the ones I wrote about my mom's passing, which for those of you at home who don't know, so the crazy thing is, on my 26th birthday is when I hit my head and got my concussion. And it was literally on my birthday. Wow. And then on my 27th birthday is when my mom died. I'm not kidding. Literally on my birthday. Both things. Completely life-changing, world upside-down events.
Back to back on your
back
birthday.
To back. Yeah. I don't know what the world is trying to tell me about that.
No more birthdays.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah. Well, and like, and I told this last night in the thing, but like, my mom died rather unexpectedly. Like 2 weeks before she passed, we found out she had cancer. We didn't know. Nobody knew. She was kicking it until all of a sudden she was sick.
Right.
And then we were in the hospital for 2 weeks, and it just slowly got worse and worse and worse. And when we realized that this is close to the end, someone brought in a keyboard for me. to play for her because she was a musician.
Right.
Music was
Choir
everything. Yeah, she was the church music director for 40 years. She was the music teacher at the Catholic school. She directed theater for young people, like young people's theater, for 17 years, which was like 100 kids on stage.
That's a saint.
Herding cats. I mean, I filled in for her once or twice and was like, I don't know how she does this, because I was just like yelling and like trying to,
Like,
come on,
no
kids.
part
Like,
singing. It's just get on stage and don't run around.
right, like this group on stage at this time and this one. I was just, it took a village, but holy cow. She was amazing, and she was like the music person of the community, and everybody knew her kind of, and like if anybody needed music at an event, they would call her. So I know where I get it from, and I know where I get my busybody from, because she was always moving. But the year after my concussion, I didn't know if music was even a thing for me anymore. I didn't know if it was what I was meant to do, because it hurt. I couldn't sing without pain. I couldn't play piano without pain, because like think about your brain and how many signals it has to send to coordinate your fingers.
Yeah, and then even like I think of times, even just like, you know, if you have a headache and you're going to play, it's almost like, who's making all that noise? Oh, it's me.
Yes,
For
the
next 2
sounds
hours.
that would come back. Yes, it was like all of those things. And I was just like, well, maybe it's not the thing. But anyway, when she's in the hospital and someone brought a keyboard in for me, the moment my fingers touched the keys, it was, I have never felt something, well, maybe I have, but it was just so deep. It was like a release, and it was like something in my soul was like, this is you. This is so you. Like, this is what you have to do. Oh, so it really brought me back to music. And I just found my way of putting my brain together again with writing and processing. And so some of the songs that I wrote for my mom after she passed, that I think can comfort people, because I wrote them as a comfort for me.
Great.
I'm kind of excited that they could have a bigger life than I had pictured in the first place. Like, I'm seeing, I have a vision of like maybe an orchestra.
Yeah.
And a gospel choir. And I see like the faces of people who knew her and loved her. Like, I'm thinking it at some point could be a recording or maybe a public concert where people who loved her and have known music through her or something have contributed.
Right.
And maybe it's a recording where everybody sends in their vocal part of the choir part. And maybe the instrumentalists all play the thing, and it's orchestrated. And I'm trying just not to, because my brain, I've been struggling with the word limits.
Oh, yeah.
And like with my brain, it was like, well, I have these limits. Like, I have this much energy before I have a migraine, or I have this much I can do before I have to rest for 2 days. Or, you know, it's just like all these limits. And I was like, I'm going to push these limits. And so now with the music I've written, I kind of am trying to open my brain to no limits.
Yes.
So like, what if I'm singing in front of an orchestra? I don't know, maybe it'll go that way. Maybe it won't. Like, I don't know. But I just am trying to, we'll see where the universe leads it. But yeah, I'm trying to think big, because why not?
Yeah.
You know, it's also like with the pandemic and everything and all the things I've been through, it's like, I'm not going to wait for the life I want to find me.
Right.
I have to work for it, and I have to create it.
Yes.
So I don't need somebody to say, why don't you come sing in front of this orchestra?
Yeah.
I can make it myself. I can write it. I can ask people to do it if they want to do it. And then maybe I'll give a concert in front of an orchestra. I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioning symphony and gospel choir. It's like I'm about to work with Deborah Perry on something.
Nice.
That's I don't know if it'll be announced. It's happening next month, so it'll be announced soon. But
okay.
And it's not under my name. It's under Serena's name, because she's getting the crew together.
Awesome.
But like, she does the Symphony of Soul, and we know people. Like Josh Dreyer is assistant principal in the symphony, and
is he?
nice. Bill Vitz being the main guy
Okay.
in percussion, but
Yep.
Josh will do shows here and
Nice.
there.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I haven't seen him in forever.
Yeah, we're touching base actually next week, which will be fun.
Cool.
And yeah, because another fun fact of Haruki's partner Beth plays in a chamber, contemporary chamber quartet,
Oh,
and
nice.
she in college was like, yeah, you know, I used to listen to Bill Band and the New Music Ensemble, and I was like, I was in the music.
Yeah, you
should
were.
be doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
Once we can figure out when, you know, the West Michigan New Music Collective can get up and running again, we can start doing like East and West, you know,
Wow, cool.
trading shows and just throwing stuff together.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, because the performance that the group had right before the 2020 shutdowns was at Listening Room. It was that group and then the Vintage Parlor Orchestra.
Okay.
So it was like a dual large group show.
Yeah, that'd be interesting in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the amount of people, I mean,
Who could fit up there?
yeah.
Yeah, I wondered.
Because we did a show with in Lee Hirsping's band, and that was like
Okay.
Jim Alfredson's got his organ with the Leslie, and then there's a drummer, and then Lee had his guitar rig, and then, you know, Caleb just plays sax, but then I had the House Steinway and a Rhodes.
Wow.
Like, that's a lot of equipment.
You had the Steinway up there too? Oh my
I
gosh.
was just like, how is this all?
Did you fit on the stage?
Surprisingly, I had enough room where I didn't feel like I was gonna like tilt back and
Nice.
fall off.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Be like my worst nightmare.
Yeah,
Falling off stage and hitting my head again.
just maybe it's like it reverses it.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
Just like
All I needed to do was hit my head on the stage again, like Freaky Friday.
That's all it took.
And everything comes back.
Yeah.
My jobs, my
Yeah.
mom.
Just like, oh my goodness. It's an alternate timeline.
Can you imagine? Yeah, if I just
Yeah.
woke up and it was like back to that day.
Yeah.
How would I live my life differently?
I've had those thoughts, like,
Mm.
even if it's not like, you know, waking up from a dream, but, you know, like, I think of like when I finished at Grand Valley, I had gotten into New England Conservatory over in Boston.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, that whole decision was like,
Making a big choice.
yeah, I was like, do I ruin my family's finances
Right.
for me to go get a degree that will take even longer to pay back?
Yeah. Ugh, the
and-
money.
Yeah, and Boston's so, like, it's connected, but it's also very pay to play. So, like, gigging, there's, you know, you got to find certain organizations to get hired, or, like, you really got to have a presence or, you know, link up with the it people at Berkeley and, you know, people, it's like, oh, I can rent this room for $300, but I know I'll make X amount of dollars. And it's like those people know they can do it.
Okay.
Or I feel like a lot of people, I mean, we do that here too, but like, you know, like how you had your performance and it wasn't just, oh, it's a live concert. It's also recorded and streamed, and you can, you know, you could share the whole thing. You could clip out songs as individual videos. Like the utility of spaces is now a huge factor, I think, for how people are booking nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just like, oh, we're gonna play a show at a bar, it's like, all right, even if the crowd's not there, we're gonna film it. Or like, is it even gonna look good if we try to film it here?
Yeah.
Like,
A lot more goes into decision making now with the knowledge we have.
yeah. And even with, because, you know, I think of like the landscape in terms of venues has changed so dramatically too, with, you know, like Live Nation bought up a bunch more spaces. The guy who used to be at William Morris Entertainment but owns Lollapalooza, he was doing like kind of like you know, in the publicity side of it, it was, I want to help save venues, but then, you know, the in the finer
underside,
print, yeah, well, and not even in like, you know, like tiny subscript. It was just like, still in the article, it was, you could accept money, but in exchange for 51% ownership. So it's like every venue he saved, he is now the majority owner of. and that, you know,
I see.
like for him, that's like, okay, I can route tours easier. I can,
Wow.
you know, if I have ties to labels, I can help them route stuff. You know, it turns more of that
Holy
touring
moly.
scene into a monopoly.
Yeah.
Versus
great
like,
for him.
Yeah. It's like, oh, cool, you know, Pete's bar got saved, but at what cost to the scene? You know, there's no.
Yeah.
It isn't. You know, it wasn't expressed in that article saying like, oh, he's gonna let, you know, the venues do their own thing. Like he's got a big enough team where he could just expand and, you know, hire people
send people
remotely.
in to run the venues. Wow.
Because I know that happened with the Marriott recently.
Really?
They tried to bring in. I don't know if they're still. I'm like leaning back on the camera.
Oh no! Oh, my posture is terrible.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. My friend Nicole is always on me about my posture. She's gonna see this and be like, "Wow."
It's like you were just totally crumpled.
Yep.
And I don't know. Maybe that's just a symptom of, you know, classical. You're having to.
I know. Actually, I've talked a lot about this with my physical therapist, my current one at least. I've been through multiple, but we are taught to be so upright and have a certain posture, and it's not how the human body is built.
Yeah, it's like you're working more of your back to like keep that posture more than it is to feel relaxed.
And there's like a curvature that you're completely like not allowing to be where it needs to be anymore.
Yeah.
It's been very interesting for me to figure out because a lot of those things cause the pain and aid in my migraines. Yeah. But anyway, we're off track. Yep. I don't know what we're talking about.
Lollapalooza venue owner. With the Marriott, I don't even remember the name of the company, but I had been contacted and I was like, I don't know who this guy is. How did he get my number? And I'm like, my thought, it might have been through like either Blue Water Kings or maybe I'm trying to remember if I played events at the Marriott that weren't.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm wondering. Like through the Marriott, did they give him your number or something?
I mean, I've reached out, so maybe they just found my email, and then I have like the little
interesting.
You know, at the bottom, this like signed, and then my email and phone number.
Yeah.
But this person's calling, and this person was calling from Boston, from representing a company based in Florida.
Holy cow.
To book Michigan artists. And, you know, initially I was like, it was around the time that the musical had gotten canceled. So I was like, oh, this might be, you know, it's annoying because, you know, trying to find all the work, maybe this will be a good fit. And then they were like, oh yeah, all of our artists, you know, they get paid. It was like, I think it was like $400 for like 3 hours. And then it was kind of like when you do a gig at like Grand Valley and they'd say like, oh no, we just put you through payroll, so you have to wait 2 weeks. But for them it was, you know, musicians get paid the following month. And we were like, what? Who would say yes to that?
Why?
I'm like, why can't
what world does that make any sense?
Especially like, I'm sure since that company has multiple venues all around the country they work with, and then the Marriott itself is part of a franchise. It's not like they don't have any money.
Right.
They have a lot of money. So that was, you know,
I don't understand that.
It was so weird to like, because then it did would bring up questions of like, you know, who made this decision? Because I knew there was a guy who used to book there, and he was, you know, a local artist. So I'm like, did they just stop doing shows and then not ask him back and like try and consult with a company for like their branding image or something, or if it was like a corporate relationship type thing they were trying to build, or
that's what I would think.
Which at that point you'd think they just go to Blue Water Kings because they're part of a big corporate, you know, chain of different wedding band regions.
I mean, it might have been someone who knew someone and did each other a favor. I mean, who knows? At the corporate level, I don't know what those folks are doing.
Yeah, it always boils
on their weekends
down to like 10 people in a room.
Yep.
And then it just spills out from there.
Yep.
Instead of like...
Or schmoozing at a cocktail party or something. Or I don't know.
Yeah, it's and that's some of the weird things because for as many bigger shifts and buying up of the space, there's also an attempt at the the normal person's level to create new space or
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure some house shows have been trying to go on
Yeah.
because they kind of dipped for a while in Grand Rapids and now I think they're starting to tentatively come back
Yeah.
as things are able to be safer but
Right. And I just was reading that the CDC is like lowering mask mandates and things because the Biden administration wants to emphasize less severe illness and death, but not so much infection rate altogether.
right.
So it sounds like that's the way that life is going to be as
Yep.
we move forward, and that we know this threat and we know what we can do
Yep.
as best we can to prevent our own infection and spread.
Yeah.
And the rest is in everybody's hands, I guess, you
Which
know?
is like, kind of a hands up. I mean, I know that
Yeah.
Coachella just dropped all their any requirements, so you could just go. And I'm like, that either means they're
Yeah.
prepared to because even that size, like those music festivals still kind of run pretty tight margins. So, but I'm sure at the holistic part of that business, maybe they have enough stowed away in case there's like a class action suit or something. It's like you told us, or they redrafted their if you purchased a
Contractor.
ticket, this is what you agree to.
Yeah.
It's like we're not
right.
responsible for you getting COVID or something.
Right. I would assume to cover their own butts, they would be doing that.
A lot of legalese and
Yeah.
yeah, because it's equal parts that and observing all of that trend and then seeing Earth Radio has done a couple shows this year and Normal Mode had the listening room residency and it's like okay, there's more community focused things.
Yeah.
And even like last fall we went to Ohio. It was first time gigging out of state in
Nice.
like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, we can get in a car and go to another city.
Yeah.
and,
oh, it's
survive.
so crazy to think how that was like not a thing for a while, and now
Here we are.
a little bit of normalcy for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure with your, I mean, what your first live performance in this long journey.
Yeah.
Now it's like each time you'll do it, they'll be like, oh, this is what I liked about how this environment was set up, or just you add it to a list of like this is a good spot I can play.
Yeah.
As opposed to rolling the dice as so many bands do and
right and taking anything they can. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to be picky. And I don't want to say I'm high maintenance, but I think I am gonna have to just to take care of myself. I have to know. I have to figure it out. So I can't say yes to everything, but.
And I feel like it's more understandable than I need Fiji water.
Right. Oh, I'd never. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna have. What are it's like a rider or whatever that you have to have whatever in the green room. I'll just be like, some quiet space, please, if possible.
Nice. Yeah, it's like Bobby McFerrin's rider just has everyone gets tea.
Oh, nice. That's not too bad.
Yeah, I'm like, that's easy.
Who is this only green M&Ms, or maybe that's just a joke.
Yeah, I know. Nicki Minaj, I think, has a crazy one.
Really? I'm sure.
Because I don't the amount of time. I mean, I think of people like Erykah Badu will have a vibe, and then she won't go on stage for a half hour, an hour. So she's probably hanging out in the green room with her crew.
Huh.
But how much time, it's before the show, maybe a little bit after the show, before the venue closes. It's how much time do you really have in a green room?
Right.
Especially a touring artist.
Right.
Where they're trying to just zip in and set up and.
Yeah. So funny story. I went to high school, or at least I grew up in the same town as Billy Strings.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and so I have friends who were closer with him than I was, but I had friends who went to see him in LA, and they let him know that they were coming, and he was like, great, come back to the green room, let's hang out beforehand. And she said they hung out till the moment he was like, okay, gotta go. Walked out on stage, did an amazing concert. Yeah, I mean, but that's him because I have said, like, he is the perfect person, like, perfect example of someone who can, like, make such a career out of this, because I think he's the person who sits and is always playing.
Yep.
Like, his brain is just like, boom, like, he can be hanging out, he can be doing whatever. Like, he's becoming an expert simply because he's spending all of the time, I mean, not simply, but like,
right.
because it's part of him. Like, I can see from videos and everything, like, just how much a part of him and his daily life it is.
Yes.
And I don't sit at the piano talking to everybody. Like, you know, it's like I don't have the luxury, I guess, of having the instrument where I'm just always playing, or my brain doesn't really want to be doing that all the time because it's a lot of work for my brain still. But yeah, it's so funny to see and awesome to see.
Yeah, because one thing I know, there's like the subsection of like the music nerd fans that are just like, they see a certain a video of him in a room with another artist, and then their brain's like, is this a group, is this just hanging out, like what's happening? But like there's that video with, it was like him and Michael Cleveland and who he's the crazy fiddle player in the Firekeepers, and Bela Fleck, and like I think there was a fourth person there, but they were all just jamming and around.
Amazing.
And
I'm
like,
sure.
All right, is this gonna be like like
you guys gonna make something out of this, or
yeah, is this like a like the Goat Rodeo sessions, like Chris Thiele and Yo-Yo Ma type stuff, or is it like any of those, like what combination, because they all have such good facility of their instrument, and they understand the history of the music, so it's like they know how to like
so much can go into it,
a bunch of it.
And that's something that's so interesting to me, is like in my journey, like I was trained classically and did tons of musical theater, and those styles are very specific, and like there is a lot of very specific training that goes into that.
Right.
And so now, as I'm writing my own stuff and really being challenged to find my own voice, not exactly how I've been trained, has been a lot of a journey, because I didn't want my stuff to sound classical, and I didn't want it to sound musical theater, because I think it takes away from what I'm trying to say.
Right.
In some ways, because people might tune in and go, oh, that sounds musical theater. And it might be someone who hates musical theater and then won't listen to the song, and like won't listen to what I'm trying to reach them with, or whatever. And so I really had an interesting time. And because my singing, especially singing classically after my brain injury, hurt. The resonance needed was like a nightmare. So I wrote lower. And I speak lower now, actually, because speaking higher and everything just hurts. So I've found a lot of different ways to navigate that. And I've had a lot of fun trying to stylistically change my techniques and things so that it serves the song, because I would hear it and I go, ugh, like I sound so classical there. What is it? And it might be like that I'm putting too much of an emphasis on a consonant, like at the end of a word, like night. Because I've been taught that way. Right. And choral singing, of course you're using consonants. And in church, like you have to be understood. You have to sing clearly and pronounce everything. And nobody does that on the radio. I mean, like, not nobody, but like, it is style first.
Yeah, no one's thinking that specifically of like their diction.
Right.
They're just like, these are the notes and the emotions.
And and so for me, with all that training being natural for me, I've been like, okay, now I have to think a lot about it to let go of it.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And it's been really interesting. And my vibrato especially would be, oh, that sounds classical. Or like, oh, that is a musical theater thing if I've ever heard it. And so working on more straight tone singing. And I've listened to a lot of like Sarah Bareilles, who I think is kind of like my artistic sister.
Right.
She's piano driven. She has a clear, pingy voice, beautiful, and navigates amazingly from low to high, like, and doesn't sound too musical theater-y. Like sounds mainstream pop.
Yeah.
Indie, whatever. But but she does use vibrato. So I was like, so why are you listening to me thinking musical theater with my vibrato, but not to her?
Right.
Before she wrote Waitress, at least, which is musical.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've had a lot of fun, a lot of anger sometimes, but mostly fun. So I'm excited to see where it'll go. And using a microphone is so different than how I was trained too.
Oh, right.
Just trying to project.
So you didn't need to have it right up against. Or
Correct.
It's like here or here.
Right. Just very different. And so I've had a lot of fun getting right up and close and letting it do more of the work than my diaphragm necessarily, or my just a lot of letting it carry. Anyway,
yeah,
I could talk forever about it, but
no, well, and I was thinking, because like I'm sure with the training it helps, like it's almost like what they teach you in like theory class. They're like, here's all the rules you learn so you know how to break them.
Exactly. Now go break them. Yeah.
Yeah, so now you know,
which is not exactly how they would tell you to go make a career in the classical world. They would say follow these rules, but
stay
maybe
in your lane.
Yeah. And
Bach, Beethoven.
Don't
even look at anything.
Puccini. Yeah.
1950.
Right. So I'm here for it. I'm going down one hallway with this voice, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll pop back over at some point to musical theater or something, or maybe I won't. I don't know. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Well, and I feel like, singers like Duran Bernard, or like, Yeba, or I'm trying to think of all the ones I've listened to recently that they just, like, especially Duran, like, he's not afraid to, like, he's going to land this note with this shape. It's going to have this attitude. And then it's like, oh, you can open up. You can do the falsetto. You can do the, add a little grit to the falsetto. He can, do these crazy multi-octave runs if he really wants to throw in some crazy thing.
Yeah.
But the whole presentation of it is like, oh, he's just super comfortable and he's having fun knowing that he can play around. Like, he's enjoying not even just his voice, but like just what he can do with, what the voice can do in general.
Yeah.
And I think that's, Jacob Collier's mentioned that too. Like, one of his favorite things to do is just explore what the voice can do. Because it's such a varied, like with guitar, it's like, okay, certain strings, certain woods, certain, there's a lot of variables that go into it, and you can't like the voice can be brighter or darker without having like, oh, I got to switch strings or
right. Like, I can't change my vocal folds, but I can change the sound that comes out of them.
Yeah, it's like all the placement and the
right. It's really funny because obviously, like, I've been trained not to have breath in my voice, or like to have my tone very much on the breath. So, but so many people have breathy tones and are very successful, and it works for the song. So I've actually been working on putting breath into some things, and that's really interesting because I never did that before.
Yeah, Amber Navran comes to mind. Like, a lot of her voice is like, I feel like alto range, and then like a little bit higher, and then she'll do the lot of breath, which can be funny when you're listening on like bad speakers. It's like, Moonchild is just all you hear is the high frequencies, so it's like her breath and the snaps.
Funny.
It's like, oh, you can't hear the bass, but when you listen on a normal stuff, it sounds awesome and full and balanced.
Cool.
Because she's also a producer, so she understands like her voice as the tool in the mix, but also the mood of the song. And
cool.
Yeah, and I think that's, it's huge to like, even if you think you're at like a good spot, like, I know for me now it's like, how do I warm up? What type of rep do I want to add? What things do I want to, transcribe? Not even for like, jazz, but like what things would be cool to learn from.
Yeah.
And just like, working those muscles.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Even just those little steps, you're like, oh, I've come so far.
Right.
Just with little daily steps.
And like, I acknowledge I'm never going to be an expert. I always will have more to learn.
Right.
I mean, like, I guess someone could say, when you get to this point, you're an expert at this. Okay, great. But like, there's so much to explore and so much to learn. And especially even in my songwriting, like, this is where I started. I'm pretty proud of a lot of it. But is it the best thing I'm ever going to do? Are any of my songs the best ever? Probably not. And I am totally cool with that. Like,
Yeah.
I want to keep writing. I'd love to write for other people. I don't know if I really want to be the artist forever or for very long at all. I don't know. But,
Right.
and I love pop and I love bopping. And if I can get in a room with people who also love to bop, let's write. You know,
Yeah.
like, I'm excited to learn more. And I was never trained in production stuff with my classical degree. So it's really a whole new world, and it's really fun to. There's so much to learn though.
Yeah.
I'm getting into the studio. Oh my gosh.
Never stops. And I think of like, getting into sound. It wasn't like I took a class and then 3 years later I had a degree. It was like I had a 6-hour training, and then the first thing I mixed was the Sunday service that next Sunday.
Okay.
It was just like, and go.
And thrown to the wolves or
fader, EQ. What?
Yeah.
Am I using enough compression?
Yeah.
Too much? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
It is the best way to learn though, when you just are thrown and you have to do it. I
Yeah.
think sometimes
right.
as just like trial by fire, like you're gonna figure it out if you have to. Like,
Yeah. Well, and
doing it yourself.
one of the things we did, me and Brooklyn, when we were hanging out with Haruki, we went to his class that he teaches at Plymouth Rock, mainly to Lawrence Tech students that are like, they're going into the more mechanical side of engineering in the music business, so they want to build like speakers and audio equipment. But the way the class is framed is to understand, like, listening to there's prompts for everyone to write songs and home produce, and then there's a lot of listening, a lot of like, what chord progressions, what instruments, what style, like understanding that you're not just going to build a speaker without having a lot of different ways to reference it.
Yeah.
So Brooklyn and I were there just to answer questions, and some people had some good questions just about, like, you could tell they wanted to also be on the audio engineering side of it.
Okay.
Just like, what do artists like in the studio? And it's like, mainly it's, like, we don't mind learning about gear or learning about things, but not at the, not at the depth or
right, like the expense of your creativity, like the reason you're there, right?
Yeah, at the expense of creativity and the their time.
Yeah.
It's like, you could spend an hour talking about a microphone.
Right.
And then it's like, what did that do? You didn't end up using it? Or like, I'd much rather like have the engineer get something set up,
Yes.
have something recorded and be like, that sounded cool. How'd you do that?
Right.
And then it's less about...
Yeah, and finding people you can trust that are going to be able to make you sound, or, use the equipment that fit you best. Like, that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's good that, like, there are more supplementary classes around music school to kind of help understand the holistic picture, but
yes,
it's still kind of a foreign concept to a lot of schools.
It sure is.
And
yeah, oh my gosh, we could go down a huge rabbit hole about
curriculum.
Yeah, and what we learned and what we wish we would have learned.
Yeah, that'll probably be... I definitely want to do a music school roundtable with people. So.
Oh, I am so down for that.
Like, here's what I wanted to learn.
Right.
Here's what I never got to do.
Right. And then I have a whole nother lens because then I got the job recruiting for music school.
Right.
So, yeah, then to be on the other end and recruiting and saying, why should you come get this degree?
Yeah.
Was a whole thing.
Why should you spend more money than you've ever made a year?
Right. And parents who are like, should we really be sending our kid for music school here? And I would be like, here's what your kid can do. It is up to them if they want to do it, and it's up to you guys. It's all about what your kid can get out of it and make out of it. But here's what we offer. It's like, you have to make your own decisions, and I'm going to tell you all the good things that I can. And you have to take and fly.
Right, yeah. Here's the tools. Yeah, that could be a whole other hour. But yeah, but this has been great.
This has been so fun.
So much fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I obviously always love chatting with you anyway, but this was fun.
But yeah, I know I'll post some links into stuff, but where should people find what you're up to?
Oh yeah.
Listen to the concert, your stream.
Oh yes. Okay, so last night's concert was live streamed on the Sound Check Lowell Facebook page. So if you search Sound Check, and if you're in Michigan, then you'll find it. The video's on there. And then I am currently working on a new website. I have a friend designing some things, working on branding things for me, which is exciting. And so CaitlinCusack.com has my old one right now, and it doesn't look exactly like I would like it to look. But it also has my concussion blog if people want to learn about my story and how I lost my parents and all the things that I've been through. It's not super recently updated, but it has the big chunk of what happened when I hit my head. Right. So, yeah, and more to come soon, hopefully.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
See how that looks.
In-person things. Woo!
Yeah, see people.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, thanks, Dutcher.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Awesome.
Good timing.
Yeah. Caitlin Cusack, everybody. Wasn't that a great interview? Super inspiring, super motivating. Loved getting to catch up with her more. I've been seeing her, in the rehearsal phases of her recent concert. We keep in touch, but to see this triumph of years of time gone by to get to a point where she's able to perform again is super cool, super happy. And if you want to support her, check out the links in the descriptions. There's more you can read up about her story, as well as checking out the performance we mentioned at Soundcheck. There's a link for that as well. And again, if you dig the podcasts, patreon.com/DutcherSnedeker, DutcherSnedeker.com for everything else. But until then, we'll see you in the next episode of Mitten Backstage. Take care.